What's going on, guys? Kenny here from 619 Guitars and Gear, and in today's video, since the holidays are coming up, I thought it was only right to make a video about my very first guitar, which is this LTD H-250 that I got for Christmas many years ago. And it's just a funny story how I got it. I figured we can go over specs, go over everything that this guitar has been through, because it's been through a lot. And I can tell you the story on how I got it because it's pretty funny. And we'll just have some fun with this one. So as always, let's get into it. Alright, so I figured before we get into story time, we can go over the specs on this guitar. Now I am going to go over these factory specs, which is how it came from LTD. And then I will tell you all the things that I have changed on it throughout the years. And then we'll get into the funny story on how I got this thing. So starting with the specs here, we have it is a 2004 model, so it is pretty old. It was made in Indonesia. You have a 3-piece maple neck-through design, and then for the body wings you have agathis wood, which is a wood I feel like you don't see much of anymore, and if you do, I just don't hear about it. And then to top it off, you have this really nice flame maple top. Has a natural unpainted binding around the body. It is this really nice translucent cherry red color on the whole guitar in a gloss finish. And then moving on to the neck, you have a bound rosewood fretboard. It is a 25.5-inch scale. You have 22 extra jumbo nickel frets, dual action truss rod, which has always functioned really well, no problems with that. For your fret markers, you just have these little abalone dots, which are pretty nice, but they are really small. And then at the 12th fret, you have this, model identification, which is the H-250 and some mother of pearl. Typical black side dots on the binding. You have a graphite nut, which from the factory, I'm pretty sure it came with the graphite nut, but I've recently put a new nut on about 5 years ago, I'd say. Well, not recently, but it is replaced. You still have the original ESP tuners, which have always functioned well. The only thing I replaced is the washers and the nut on the top here. Other than that, they're all original. Let's see here. Moving on to the electronics, it did come with Duncan design. I think they were the HB 104s and the 102, or maybe they're just the 102s. I'm not exactly sure. They are now switched to EMG HZs, which have been in this guitar for a long time. A lot of people hate on the HZs, but I pretty much grew up with these things, so I have an ear for them. And I really like them, throughout all the years of figuring out what sound I like. These pickups are what I had in the guitar when I was figuring all that out. So I kind of have a special place in my heart for these pickups, even though they're not the best, but they still sound really good in my opinion, through the right amp and stuff like that. One volume, one tone. You have a 3-way switch, obviously mono output. You have a tune-o-matic bridge with the stop tailpiece. I do have some, I'm not sure what brand, but I have some strap lock buttons on there. And recessed back plate, which is missing some screws. And yeah, I mean, this thing's been through a lot. It's I've put new knobs in it multiple times, a lot of potentiometers. I've put new switches in it. Obviously, like I said, the pickups have been changed. But there was a point in time where none of the electronics worked, and I had this thing, the pickup basically wired direct to the jack, so you just plug it in and go. But that was kind of before I knew what I was doing when it come to wiring up guitars. But now everything is fully functioning, which I love. And yeah, really like the specs on this thing. It's when it, for the price it came out, I think it was around $450 or almost $500. I'm not exactly sure. It was around 2004 when it came out. So some pretty decent specs on a mid-grade guitar, and they sold these in multiple colors. I think they had like a hunter green, a black, a blue model, and the red model, obviously. And yeah, I ended up with the red one. So let's get into the story on how I got this thing. So basically, many years ago, like I said, around late 2003, 2004, there was a local music shop near my house called Let's Jam, just a small mom and pop shop. The owner was really cool. His name was Larry, and they sold all your typical brands. You know, they sold guitars, basses, drums, cables, everything, amps, all that. And I remember going in there as a pretty young lad and seeing these two LTDs. They had this one and the blue one, and I fell in love with them. I just really liked the way they looked. At the time, they had the chrome covers on the pickups, which were, like I said, the Duncan designs. And the whole guitar just looked really good. I didn't really know which one I wanted. It was between the blue one and the red one. I kind of liked both of them, so it really didn't matter to me. You know, at the time, I was still pretty young, so I wasn't able to just go right out and buy a guitar that I wanted. So my parents, being awesome, they were like, oh, well, maybe we'll get it for you for Christmas, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, all right, pretty cool. I was excited about that. Well, some time went by, and yeah, it came closer to Christmas time, and me being the little twerp that I was, snuck into my parents' room to see, oh, I wonder what presents they got me. And I remember, you know, lifting the blanket, and I saw a guitar box. I got super excited, and then instantly, as I looked at the guitar box further, my heart dropped because it said Squire on it. So I was like, ah, man, like, I was still, of course, grateful that I was getting a guitar. I just wanted something. At the time, I was basically still learning how to play guitar. I couldn't really play at all. And I think I just had one of those cheap silver tone kits that came with the amp, and it's basically like the starter pack. So I wanted my first real decent guitar. And, you know, when I saw the Squire, it was like one of the kit boxes. I was like, ah, man, like I basically already have one of these. And, you know, I was still excited and grateful that I was getting a guitar, but I was kind of bummed because I really wanted one of these. Well, as more time went by, Christmas morning approached, and I woke up still super excited because I was going to be grateful for whatever I got. And, you know, opened all the gifts, and it came time to open the box that the guitar was in. And I remember opening it and, you know, just acting excited because I already knew basically that I was getting some kind of guitar. You know, I opened it up and, you know, saw the Squire box and whatever. I figured I got a Squire. So I was still excited because it was a guitar. It didn't really matter to me. And, you know, I'm looking around, my brother and my parents are looking at me with this grin on their face. And I'm kind of like, what's going on here? So my dad's like, open the box. So I didn't really understand. So, you know, I cut the tape, opened the box, and lo and behold, this thing was inside of it. So they had tricked me because they figured I would probably go peeking, and they put this LTD in a Squire box. And they got me good, honestly, because I was convinced that I was getting a Squire. And man, I was so excited. I remember jumping around the house just because I wanted one of these so bad, you know. I just wanted my first real decent guitar, and this was the one I saw that I really wanted. And yeah, it's been with me ever since. Like I said, that was around late 2003, 2004. So yeah, I've had it since then, and I still play it to this day, and it's one of my favorite guitars to play, believe it or not. So this thing's definitely had its fair share of abuse. You know, my first couple of years of playing and my first couple bands, I used to just drag this thing around to practice without a case, and it would fall over, get knocked on, you know, get hit with stuff, and it's just taken a lot of abuse. It's got a couple little chunks missing out of it. It's super scratched up. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but to me, that's just a character. That's the story of this guitar's life, because it's been around for a long time. You know, the binding's all yellowed and everything, and I've had to replace a lot of parts, just mostly the wear parts, you know, like your potentiometers and switches. I think I have replaced the bridge on it because the saddles just got all, you know, gouged out and started to rust and stuff like that. But everything else has held up really good. The frets, I've done some fret work on it just to clean them up and everything, but the playability on this thing is still awesome. I play it a lot. I can remember one particular show that I played. It was like we were auditioning for some kind of big festival at my high school called Everstock, and my band was playing, and I went to do one of them, you know, cool kid tosses where you throw it around your neck. And it wasn't one of those situations where it went flying, because I always made sure that everything was nice and secure. But I was definitely standing a little too close to my amp, and when I threw it, it smacked my amp so hard, and man, it was super embarrassing. But I noticed that I put a little crack right here, and it scared the crap out of me. I thought I cracked the neck, and it ended up just being the lacquer. I bought it to the place that I bought it and had the tech look at it, and yeah, he was convinced that it was just in the lacquer. But what's funny is the crack used to stop right about here, and now throughout all the years it is spread to about almost the other side of the neck. But everything's still secure and strong. You'll notice that the back of the neck is like a matte finish. That's because I wet sanded it, because I hate gloss necks. So I did that recently, actually, and it made it feel a lot better. It's just a lot more slick and easier to play. But that crack spread, and I mean, as far as I know, I think it's just in the finish. But I mean, the headstock hasn't broken off yet, so who knows? If it is in the wood, it's still on there pretty good, because everything's still secure. It holds tuning really well, and I haven't had any issues with it. But let's go ahead and do a little sound demo. I'm just going to do distortion because I never use this guitar for cleans. So I figured we'll just do a little tiny sound demo just so you get an idea on what it sounds like, and then we'll wrap this video on up. All right, so real quick, we'll do a little sound demo using distortion only. I'll go through all 3 pickup positions, and we are plugged into the interface using the ML Sound Labs Icon amp sim. So starting at the bridge pickup. Alright guys, well that pretty much wraps this video on up. This guitar is going to stay around forever because it means a lot to me. But I had a lot of fun making this one. With the holidays coming up, I figured I'd tell that story. But as always, thanks for watching. Stay safe, be a good person. It's raining out, so stay dry. And we'll see you in the next video.